the audience of Kalapradharshan, and I will be, during the month of Maargazhi or Maargazhi of Tamil month, Kalapradharshan will be presenting Sirinompi, 30 verses in Kannada, which is the representation or a translation of the well-known Thiruppavai of Shri Goda Devi or Shri Andal in Tamil. So, the idea of this presentation is to give an overview of what the Sirinompi, or in a sense, what Thiruppavai of Andal really represents, how this work, the great work, is structured, and what is the message that it transmits to the public. So, the Thiruppavai or Sirinompi is not just a simple religious work. It's equally a very interesting and remarkable literary work, full of similes, metaphors, and other great features of a literary remarkable work. Now, for the listeners, we will see the 30 verses are presented in a sequence, and they may get an impression. A story is being counted in a sequential way, and the day after day, once the verses are presented in such a manner that we think that a story is counted in a continuous way. In fact, it's not exactly like that. So this idea I would like to present to you, how it is conceived and how it is structured and what we can make out of it. In fact, the divine ritual or sacred ritual, Thiruppavai, that's what it means. So, was conducted by the Gopikas, the cowherd girls of Gokula, Nanda Gokula, and there is a mention of this and a description of this in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th skandha or 10th division and 22nd chapter. So, obviously, Andal was inspired by this description, and she gives an impression to the listener and to the reader that she would like to reenact that sacred mission those Gopikas carried out to win the love of Sri Krishna, who was among them. And what was this Vratam or sacred mission they carried out? It was what is called Katyayani Vratam. So, Katyayani Vratam is sort of invoking the blessing and help of the goddess Parvati, who is also called Katyayani. And so these Gopika Stris took a ritual bath during the 30 days of the Maargazhi month or Maargazhi month and invoked Katyayani, Parvati, and appealed to her to help them reach the Lord, Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, because they knew that though Krishna was among them, he was no one other than the reincarnation or incarnation of the Supreme Lord Narayana or Sri Vishnu. So they wanted to reach him, they wanted to serve him. That was their goal. So why did they reach Katyayani? While they had Krishna himself be with them. So it's a very interesting to note. There were two reasons for this. Why these Gopika Stris went and appealed to Katyayani or Parvati. One was Parvati herself struggled a lot, had to do a lot of penance, even forego without eating a leaf. She was called Aparna, in order to win the heart of Maheshwara, Ishvara, so that he can become her husband or her lord. Actually, here, the word pati in Sanskrit has two meanings. One is boss or lord, and the other one is husband. In fact, the second one comes from the first. So, essentially what we are saying, someone whom we serve with all our love and devotion. That's what Parvati wanted, and she succeeded. So, someone who has succeeded, and that is what they wanted to get also, and sought her help. There was another reason other than this, why they had to go to Parvati, because Parvati was the principal collaborator in the incarnation of Lord Vishnu as Sri Krishna, and then come to Nanda Gokula. Krishna, as we all know, was born in prison to Devaki and Vasudeva, and Kamsa had taken a vow that they would kill each child that was born to Devaki and Vasudeva in the prison. So this young child had to be saved regardless of the circumstances. And then the principal collaborator was Parvati herself. She was born as the daughter of Nandagopa and Yashoda in Nandagokula. So the task was at that moment exchange the two kids. So the baby born as the son of Yashoda, son of Vasudeva and Devaki had to be replaced by the daughter of Yashoda and Nandagopa. So she was a principal collaborator. So when Vasudeva brought in the midnight of that 8th night of in Nandagokula, so the child had been already born. And of course, the Maya influence had been such that the Yashoda was not even aware of the sex of the child that was born. Nobody was aware. So this way, Vasudeva could cross the Yamuna river, come to the house of Nandagopa, exchange this child, leave Krishna there and take. So this is why Parvati is also called Krishna's sister, because in Yashoda's place, these two were together for the first. Only there they were together, nowhere else. So Vasudeva brought the child, took Parvati in her form as a child and took back to the prison, where of course we know the rest. So Kamsa tried to kill her and she just flew away, telling him that the one who is going to eliminate him is very safe elsewhere and he can safely expect his bitter end. So she was the principal collaborator of bringing Krishna and in all his acts. So without her collaboration, there is no way that any Gopika, ordinary woman, would succeed reaching that Supreme Lord. So for these two reasons, they took the ritual bath in Yamuna river during the month of Maargazhi or Maargashira in Kannada. So performed and sought her blessing to win over Sri Krishna. So this is what Goda Devi or Andal tried to reenact in this Thiruppavai. That's how the Thiruppavai starts. So Thiruppavai is a reenactment of the Katyayini Vratam, those Gopikas performed in Gokula on the banks of river Yamuna. So that's exactly what the whole ritual is about, a reenactment of Katyayini Vratam. So how the work is organized? In fact, Goda or Andal doesn't try to give day to day how it happened. So she divides into 4 parts. So we have this 30 verses can be divided into 4 parts. First 5 verses, then next 10 verses, further 10 verses, and the concluding last 5 verses. So with the help of this, she not only recounts how these Gopikas ventured, how they were all together all the time, and each one supporting the other in conducting and concluding this. How did they conclude? With the help of the Lord Krishna himself. So, in fact, he was the goal and he was also the means to reach the goal. In fact, this is the beauty and the fundamental principle of Sri Vaishnavism. So, we have to reach the God, but we reach him only through his help. If he doesn't want, we can't reach him. So, this is what Gopikas achieved, and that is the message that Andal or Goda is transmitting to us. So, in the opening verse, so there is a call for all the girls, her colleagues, her friends, and other girls to join in the sacred ritual. So, and she invokes, who is he? So, the great leader of the Nandagokula, Nandagopa's son, and the ideal woman, Yashoda, her son, so who shines like sun and moon. So in other words, this beauty is important. So he has the brilliance of the sun and the softness of the moon. So she openly says this. So such man, and he himself has promised us to help in conducting this. So please come, we'll start our ritual bath. That's how it starts. And then she goes on to say, how it should be done. So, of course, you cannot do any sacred ritual in any way you like. Some austerity is required, and you have to do some sacrifices. So, the second verse goes on and tells about what are the austerities to be observed and how it should be observed, and how they should live during these days when they realize their sacred mission. And then comes an important, in the third verse, she talks about it is not pure selfish motive. This is another beautiful point that Goda brings in here. So they are doing a great thing, not just for their own end. So they says we are doing this for the good of the land, for the good of the land where they are living. So when we do this, good things will happen here. Rains will be pouring in plenty, and we will have plenty of harvest of plenty. Cows will be giving plenty of milk, and the land will be happy. So in other words, the object is also not very selfish one, their own, but also to make the land happy with the blessing of the Supreme Lord. That is another book. Third. So then once they said the harvest, happiness, cows being very generous with their milking, so how can this happen? Only with good rains. So then there is an appeal to the rain of God rain, and there they want the God rain to pour a plenty, bring in plenty of rain, plenty of water with no shortage, obviously with no excess. And they compare each of his acts to the acts of the Lord, Supreme Lord, Narayana himself. That's a very beautiful verse of this, in this. And then they go on finally to show whom we are really trying to reach. What is the greatness about him? So, and what happens? So he says, by reaching him, by getting him, so all our past sins will be removed and all our future sins will evaporate. So in other words, it will be like something like burning cotton with a small spark. So he will be responsible for our salvation and giving us the liberation. So this is the idea. In the first 5 verses, she brings this concept and prepares the group ready for beginning the sacred vratam. Now, in the next 10 verses, you see, in fact, these next 10 verses are an example, perfect example of solidarity. In other words, once they formed a group, they don't want to leave anybody behind. No matter what the trouble or problems, they want everyone to stay together and conclude the sacred mission to the end. So this is what they want. And these next 10 verses brings in how they try to wake up each one of these. Some, of course, in a big group, someone will be either sleepy or lazy or forgot, and she was too tired. All kinds of things happen in all sections of the society. So Goda happily brings the entire section of the society, from simple to very rich, and someone, an ordinary little girl to innocent little girl to someone very rich, comfortably sleeping. So they wake up one by one, explaining. And in each verse, the praise is, while what we are doing is the most sacred thing. Nothing can be better than this. Wake up, come and join us. This is the call she gives during the next 10 verses. In these 10 verses, we see different types of people, different types of girls, being woken up from their slumber early in the morning. Because this whole ritual is conducted in the early hours of the morning before dawn. And remember, it's the month of December, Northern Hemisphere. The winter is starting. So it's not a very comfortable dip in the river at that time. It should be pretty cold. So, but this is a part of the austerity, part of the vow they have taken. And so they want to bring together the entire group, everyone involved in this, and conclude the holy ritual. So these 10 verses talk about 10 different situations where each one is separately woken up and brought into the group. Then comes the next group of 10 verses where they are seeking the help of Lord Krishna himself to conclude this, because the final object is him, and he has to provide the means, and he should also be present in the end. So they are going to his place And the opening obstacle is the watchman. So they have to first please the watchman and tell him that we have come here at the behest of Krishna himself, who has promised us to help. Therefore, please don't block us. So they ask him to facilitate their entry by opening the door freely to them. And then they go to the parents. So they praise the parents of Krishna, Nanda Gopa, Yashoda, and all that. And then once they are praised and satisfied, they are woken up, then they have to go to Krishna's wife, Neela Devi, because Krishna should be woken up early in the morning. So, and not an easy thing for her wife to give him up so early. And so they go and they pray to her, please, your husband, though is your husband, he is the supreme Lord of the universe. He belongs to us also. You cannot deprive him from us. In fact, this is, sometimes they accuse her, sometimes they complain, sometimes they coax, and they do all kinds of things, finally to convince her that she should also collaborate and bring her husband to the door and make him available to them. So that's a very beautiful sequence of the events that take place. And finally, when Krishna is brought, then they are flabbergasted of his greatness. And the next 5 verses, they praise his greatness, how great he is, what achievements he has made already in the past, our incarnations, or in the present, and so on. So the next 5 verses talk about his greatness, including the present one. So, in fact, the last one concludes with, so you were born to one mother, came to another mother, grew up as a son of another one, and in the process grew up as a fire in the heart of that Kamsa. No, the bad man Kamsa eliminated him, and all this was done for the good of this whole world. So you are such a great man, come and bless us. So that's how it concludes. So then this leads us to the last group of 5, and there in the first one, they describe, now that Krishna has come, agreed to help them, they ask for what are the materials they need for doing this sacred vratam. So they describe how it should be done, what are the things they need, and so there's a description of this and why they need that. Then comes, so the second one, that is actually the pinnacle, the concluding event of where Krishna is present and what they do and how they give up their austerities, which they started with in their second verse, and how they conclude wearing. And that is where the message clearly is. In fact, when Thiruppavai is told about, even in the introduction, we say it is also for material benefits. You get in this world, material benefits in this world and spiritual benefits in our next world. So both are said. And both these messages are included in that. They say how will they conclude, what they do, how the spiritual event is brought to a conclusion. And in fact, the last 3 verses are very, very appealing and emotional verses. So after this, they realize, oh, we might have overstepped our limits. No? So he is the Supreme Lord. We acted as though he belongs to us. We can freely ask him, demand him anything we want. Have we overstepped? And that's where they beg his excuse. They say, yes, we know who you are. Even though we have been brought up in a very simple family, our life, our living is based on just raising cattle, producing milk products. And with that, we make our living. What do we know? We don't know anything. We are ignorant people. And you are one among us. We thought you are one among us. And we treated you as though you are one with us in a light way. Maybe we erred. So please forgive us. They ask for forgiveness after they conclude their mission. So ask their forgiveness. You are so great. But he says, no, we are here to serve you. That is our mission. We cannot be separate from you. So no matter what you do, forgive us and make sure that we will be servants of you forever. So, and the penultimate song, verse, so they say how we do that. And once again, there's an emotional appeal. He said, there the objective is very clearly stated. So all that we have done, so in spite of the fact we asked your excuse, we said we may not deserve it, but then said, since you have been born as one among us. So you cannot deny that you belong to us and you have to help us. So all that we want is that to be your servants, even if it takes 7 rebirths. So this is the great statement they make. So we won't want any other desire in this world. We want to be your servants forever. So for that, if it takes 7 more births, we are ready to do that. Please give us this boon that we will be your servants forever. And of course, the last one is the Goda's concluding verse, 30th verse. And there she tells the object of this work, Thiruppavai, she gave to the world. And so what can be expected from that? And so by doing this, those listeners, they can also, though we don't have the same benefit of those Gopastris, no, because they had the big boon of seeing Krishna in their own eyes. We don't have that, but we have other ways. But by praying to you, by remembering this great story, 30 verses, reciting it, listening to it without missing it, so we will also be blessed by that Lord. So with this, she concludes the 30 verses of the Thiruppavai. So a great work, and we will be seeing each verse perhaps with its meaning, how it goes, and we should remember this arrangement. No, first 5 verses in one group, the next 10 verses, the subsequent 10, and the last 5. So I will try to give the essence of each verse on each day, as and when these verses are played in Kalapradharshan, and I hope you will enjoy it. So I would like to conclude this overview with a salutation to Shri Andal Goda Devi, no, which was composed by the Srimad Vedanta Deshikar, a great Sanskrit writer and devotee of Narayana. So Shri Vishnu Chitta Kulanandana Kalpavallim Shri Rangaraja Harichandana Yoga Drishyam Sakshat Kshama Karunaya Kamalami Goda Mananya Sharanam Prapadye. So what this song means, so Goda was raised as the daughter of Vishnu Chitta, or Periyalvar, and so she was so brought so much of joy to that family. She was like a Kalpavriksha to them, Kalpavallim. And she had the privilege of seeing Sri Ranganatha Harichandana Yoga Drishyam, saw Ranganatha himself in his Yoga Nidra and became part of him. So she is like to us, Sakshat Kshama. Kshama is earth, the goddess earth and goddess Lakshmi. Goddess Lakshmi is known for her compassion and kindness. Goddess earth is known for forgiveness. So she is an embodiment, personification of these two. So we don't have to seek anybody else's help. It's enough to surrender ourselves to this Lord Goda. Goda Mananya Sharanam Prapadye. With this, I conclude my overview of this Sirinompi and Thiruppavai. Thank you.